Can you hear me, Marvin?
Yes.
All right. Well, like I was saying, first of all, it's nice to talk to you again, my friend. And thank you for doing this. Thank you for taking the time to do this. And I also want to thank Jeff Shields for getting us in contact with each other. That's very kind of him to do so. But yeah, I just, this is basically just to get all this information on record for future generations. And, guys like you and Dan Davis and people who were there have information that no one has access to. You guys are, our only direct link to these drums that we love. So we really appreciate any information you guys have. So
yeah,
thanks for doing this.
Okay.
So I just want to talk about your time working at the Rogers Covington factory and kind of what you did there and stuff like that, if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. So first we'll start right at the beginning. What year did you start at the Covington factory?
I started in 1957.
1957.
Yes.
Do you recall how you got the job? Was it an ad or word of mouth or through a friend or something like that?
Well, I was neighbors with the general manager, Joe Whiteneck.
Oh, really?
Yes. And so I took it as a summer job, and I was more or less a flunky. I'd done everything. But and then I decided to quit school when I was 16.
Okay.
And I asked Joe for a job, and he said, "Well, we'll have to talk to your parents." So I ended up taking the job. And they needed a painter at the time.
Right.
And so that's more or less how I got the job. It was supposed to be just a summer job, but then I took the painter job, and Joe taught me how to paint. Joe Whiteneck. He was plant manager at the time.
Excellent. So that was my next question was actually what your main responsibility was at the factory, but you had already answered that. You were the main painter over there, correct?
Yeah. At that time when I learned to paint, that's when I took over painting.
So you didn't have any painting background going in? You were just on-job training?
Yeah, that was it. And the plant manager's the one that taught me.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So when you started there, were they doing? So you were painting the interiors of the drums?
Yes. Yeah.
When you started there, were they doing the black and white interiors, or was it already gray?
No, it was already gray. I don't remember black and white at all.
Okay.
I don't know when they done that. If they did that. Yeah,
there was a point in the 50s when they were black and some were white, but I guess that was probably before you had started.
That could be. That could be. I don't know.
So you were doing the gray interiors, and we'll talk about that. I know you did some other stuff, but we'll talk about the interiors first. Was that gray interior spray applied?
Yes. Yeah.
And it was a lacquer, correct?
Right. Yes.
So were the drums hanging when you sprayed them? What was the process? Can you take me through the process?
No, we had a turntable, and to spray the inside, if it was a small one, you'd stack 2 or 3 of them together, and then you'd just stick your gun down inside and turn the turntable and spray up and down. Then you flip them over, and so you'd get all of it, and that'd be it. You just spray the inside of them. Then if it was the bigger ones, you just do one at a time. Spray. Just put your gun down inside of them. Spray it. Turn the turntable around. Just keep it coming up on it, and then when you get that done, you'd flip it over to get the bearing edge on the edge of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent. So were all the interiors that flat gray, or do you ever recall any of the speckled Zolatone being sprayed, or was everything you did coming out of Covington just the flat gray?
Yeah, just flat gray. And once in a while somebody'd want clear lacquer over top of them, make it shiny.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was sort of my next question. If you remembered like a gloss gray lacquer? Because a lot of the power tone drums seem to have a really glossy gray, and all the other drums have like a flat gray.
Yeah, that was probably from the ones that put the lacquer on.
So that was the basic gray with a lacquer over it.
Right. Yes.
Wow, very interesting. Interesting. And how about like, and obviously you recall doing the clear interiors, like on the Dynasonics and stuff like that. What was that process like? It was a similar process?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, other than you just sprayed clear on them, and you just spray the clear on it, and it'd just be your natural wood then.
Right. Do you have any recollection of doing, drums for Buddy Rich or anybody like that, or they didn't make you aware of that, or were you guys aware?
No, I remember when they done them. Yeah, that was all the pearl finishes, and I didn't have much to do with that other than painting the inside of them.
But it was made known that, hey, these drums are for Buddy or these drums are for Louie or something like that?
Yeah, once in a while. Well, I mean, they didn't really come out and announce it, but, it got around the shop that that's who it was for or something like that. That's just word of mouth, more or less.
Right. That's excellent. That's really great to hear. I also see pop up from time to time some, like, natural maple lacquer interiors. Do you recall doing any of those? Maybe for a special order or anything like that? Do you recall any of that?
Well, just the natural wood, with your clear lacquer on it, that just brought the gloss out on it. Other than that, no, I don't remember staining any.
No,
on the inside.
Because I hear the term fruitwood stain thrown around a lot. You guys didn't use those terms?
No, I don't know. Unless that's what they was calling that, I don't know. I've never heard that. See, I was there from 57 to 59. Okay,
oh, wow.
Then I went in the service for 4 years. I went in, and then I come back in 63.
Okay.
And then to 66. And they had changed some of the processes. I don't really remember what all of them were, but, different people and everything else changed in 4 years. So,
sure.
So I don't know if they done something like that, but I didn't do it when I came back, so I would say, I don't know. Unless it would be just, like I say, the natural wood finish on it.
Right, but that's what you guys would call it at the factory. Maybe in the catalog they called it something else. What would you guys call it? Like, what was your terminology?
I don't know. Just a natural wood.
Okay.
Is about all I ever heard it called. That was just spatial. I think people just ordered that spatial. They wanted it that way. Right.
And then I guess all the Dynasonics were clear interiors as well. Do you recall that?
No, not really.
Not especially.
Yeah.
So when you came back from the service, you went right back to painting, or you had other responsibilities?
Yeah, I went back to painting.
So you also painted hoops, the bass drum hoops, correct?
Right. Yeah.
At the Covington show when we talked, you were telling me about like this spring-loaded contraption that you used to hold the hoops in the painting process. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. Yeah, it was just it was on a rotating. I mean it had two prongs on it that they had points on the end. They had two prongs that wouldn't move, and then they had one that was spring-loaded. You just put them in there and spring-load that up there, and then it'd hold it. And then it'd spin, and you just painted them, and when you took them off, then if there was just a little bitty indentation in there. Sometimes you'd touch it up, sometimes you wouldn't.
Oh, very cool. So if there's like a little indent on one of the hoops, that's what it would be from? Would be from that little spring-loaded pin?
Yeah.
Very cool.
There was a rod, probably maybe a quarter of an inch, and it was sharpened to a point, and that's what held it on there. One was spring loaded, and the other, yeah.
Excellent. And you would just spin it around and hit it with the black?
Right. Yeah.
Was it a gloss black when it left the factory? Did you guys apply gloss?
Yeah. Gloss black lacquer.
Excellent. Excellent information. When I spoke to you at the show in Covington, you were also saying that you had painted the multicolor drums, the Duco finish drums, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Can you walk me through the process of how you got that effect?
On like the black and gold and the blue and silver. Yeah,
exactly.
You'd take. They had a the silver and the gold was a powder form, and you'd add a little thinner to it, and it would dissolve. It'd be just about like water, and then you'd add your clear lacquer to it, and that would give you your paint. So then you'd spray the whole shell that color, and then when it dried, then you would take your little gun, and you had a turntable, and you'd have a pointer you could move up and down, and then you would split in thirds, and then you'd set that pointer, and you'd come up on that, and then just go down and keep covering it on the one side, and then you'd flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. So your gold in the middle stayed there, and then you just covered up the rest of it with your black. And same thing with all your multicolors.
Right. Wow. Very interesting. That's great information. Do you recall doing any of the red and white multicolors? Yeah,
I painted them.
Do you feel like you did fewer of them than the other colors at any end?
Oh yeah. We never did. I never did very many of them.
Excellent.
It was just special orders, you know.
Oh, right. So not many of the red and white went out.
No, not that I know of. Not while I was there, anyways.
Right. I remember we also talked about, you had mentioned there was a finish that was your favorite to do. I think it was like a mahogany finish. You remember talking about that?
Yeah. The mahogany drums. That was mainly your school drums, your marching drums.
Right.
They had then they had the veneer finish was a mahogany type wood, the veneer finish, and then you'd have to add all buckets of this paste, and you'd have to rub that on there, and then let it dry a little bit, and then you'd rub it off. You'd use burlap, right, and rub all that off, and then all that pigment would stay in them little pores of that mahogany, and then you'd put, after that was good and dry, then you'd put sanding sealer, and then after that dried, you'd sand it, and then you'd start with your lacquer, and you'd put the clear lacquer over it. And then after you got the clear lacquer, then 9 times out of 10, they wanted that finish dulled down, so you'd just take some real fine steel wool and go over it, and that would dull the finish down, and that was about it.
Excellent. And that's the process you enjoyed? You enjoyed that process?
Yeah, I always liked the mahogany finish. I mean, but I was in paint. I wasn't in pearl. So
right.
What I did made me look good.
Yeah, they're beautiful. I remember you told me that they didn't want the finishes too glossy, so you used the steel wool to take some of the sheen off?
Yeah.
They didn't want it too glossy?
No, for some reason, I don't know why they didn't. I always thought they looked good, but there might have been a few that didn't want them knocked down, but I always thought they looked good.
Yeah. So did you ever work on the assembly bench?
Oh, when I first hired in, I would play around with it. You know, if somebody needed some help, I'd put some lugs on or whatever. Just that's when I first hired him before I started painting. I was
Go ahead.
I was a flunky back then. I used to drive the old pickup truck back and forth to the platers and get all the lugs and stuff plated, and then whatever they had me do around the shop.
Excellent. Because there are some drums floating around with, you know how some of the assemblers would put their initials on the tags?
Yeah.
There are some floating around with MT on the tags. Is there any chance that's you?
I don't know. I don't remember doing that, but I don't know.
So was it pretty common for people to kind of bounce from station to station? Like if assembly got busy, would somebody come over from somewhere else? And
I don't really know.
No,
I kind of stayed back in the paint department, and I think everybody had their job, and they more or less, you know, at that time when I first started there, well, it was mostly older people.
Yeah.
Well, I was only 16, so everybody was older. But yeah. And then when I came back from the service, it was more or less a whole new crowd. You know, that a lot of them had passed away and or moved on or whatever.
Right.
There was still a few there, but yeah, I don't remember a lot of moving around other than when I first started there. They used to do the hides.
Yes.
Down in the basement, and they used to make all their own drum heads.
Right.
See, and then they would do everything to it. They'd get the hides in raw and scrape the hair off of it and all that stuff, dry them. Did you ever do any
of that?
No, I didn't like that. That was stinking.
That's funny. Dan said the same thing, that it smelled awful.
Oh, yeah, and he wasn't there when they was doing the hides. he was there, but yeah, they would hang them hides up, you know, and clean them all off and everything, then let them dry, and then they would cut them out and the size that they wanted, and then they'd have to wet them up, and then they had hoops that they had to tuck that in. Well, they'd have to wet them and get them soft again to tuck their head in there, and
right.
that smelled due, and they done that.
Oh, that's funny. That's great info.
Yeah.
So I'd assume that not too many people were coming to help out in the paint department. That was pretty much a specialized area, huh?
Yeah. After I come back, I used to do it, most all of it myself. And then when I come back from the service, they had another one in there with me at times, and they would do the hoops and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Was that Mike Manson by any chance?
I think Mike Manson. I think he painted when I was in the service.
Got it.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever work together, or when you came back, you?
Yeah, I think for a while. But I don't know where he went. He might have left by then. I mean, after I came back, but then I had some other guy that used to help with the hoops, but I can't even remember his name. He was young, but yeah.
So were you close with the guys who we all hear the names of, like Frank Walters and Alfie Shields and Jerry Shields, Dan Davis? Were you pretty close with those guys?
Yeah, with them there. A lot of the others I didn't really know that well. But yeah, me and Jerry, we grew up together.
So you knew him before the Rogers connection?
Oh yeah, I knew him. Well, I can't remember not knowing him. we was just kids. We just lived. We just lived. He was on one side of the tracks and I was on the other.
Nice.
I hear that all the time. Well, this was true. This was a railroad in between us.
Did you have much interaction with Joe Thompson at all at the factory?
Yeah. I used to paint for him and Biddy Hitter when they had their store uptown. And Joe, he was into them banjo ukes.
Yep.
That's what they called them. I don't know what they call them now, but we called them banjo ukes. I used to paint the necks and the head for them.
Oh, really?
But and then I'd stay over at night and then I'd paint for them. Different stuff that they had.
So this was aside from the regular Rogers drum stuff you were doing, you would do stuff for him personally?
Yeah. This was after I'd get off work, then I'd stay and work a couple hours for them and paint for them.
That's fantastic. This is all really great info. So do you remember two gentlemen who worked in the assembly bench named Carl Ashman and Darrell Chenoweth? No one seems to remember these guys, and Dan Davis had mentioned them. Do you recall those names?
I recall the names. I've seen that about Dan, but I don't remember. I can't place a face with them. I remember when they was there, because I think they was there when I was first there. I'm not sure that they was there after I came back, because they was older gentlemen.
But they were both older guys.
Yeah, but I don't remember. I can't put a face to them.
Right.
Yeah. But there was a lot of them that. I'm getting old and I can't remember anymore. That's been a long time ago.
So was this all on the same floor? Like where was the paint area in relation to maybe where Jerry was doing his Dynasonics or where the Pearl Room was and stuff like that? Was this all happening in a pretty small area?
Yeah. Well, when I first went there, see, they built on to that place, and when I first started there, it was just a little part of it. I mean, the back part. I don't know if you've ever been in that building.
I've never been in it. No.
Okay. Well, there's a big part on the back. They built that on after. Can't remember if that was before or after I came back. I forget now, but it was just a small shop in there. But then they built that on, and then they had it was one floor, and then they built on. Well, there was a basement. There was a little basement for their machine shop, and then they built on and then added the machine shop down below, and then extended way on out. Yeah, I was when they built that on. I was out at the end of it, and then the Pearl department was right next door to me. Then it went on. Then there was assemblers and on back. But when I first started, it was pretty tight in there.
Yeah. About how many people were there, you think, when you first started? It was a pretty small operation?
Yeah. There's oh man, I don't know. There wasn't a whole lot of people. Yeah.
But by the time you came back from the service, the operation had grown quite a bit?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot more people in there. Well, and like I say, when they built on, it expanded too. Expanded more people.
So did you ever think back then when you were painting hoops and painting the interiors of drums that there'd be guys like me calling you and asking you questions about all this stuff and there'd be drum shows and...
No, not really. Yeah, it's something else. I mean, that you guys are doing all this work.
Yeah, man, the legacy lives on. It means quite a bit of us. And I tell you, it means quite a bit to me for you to take the time to do this today, Marvin, and willing to share all this information. We all appreciate you very much, and are really thankful to have access to you, and it's important to us in the Rogers community. So I want to thank you for doing this today. Thank you for taking the call and being so willing to answer all these questions. And
yeah, I'm glad I could help if I helped any.
Absolutely. You did absolutely, man. You know, we're just to document all this stuff for the future generations. And I don't want to hold you up any longer, but hopefully I'll get to see you at the Covington show next year if you can make it. We'd love to have you around.
All right.
Excellent, man. I thank you, Marvin. You have a wonderful day, my friend.
Okay, you too. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.